Hey everybody, so if you watched some of my earlier videos, I've shared some of my history, and I kind of wanted to provide everybody with kind of like a blueprint of what I've been going through for the past 15 years or so and my journey towards wellness. It's been a long road, obviously, I have extensive trauma in my background. I have anxiety, depression, PTSD, at least 3 major TBIs, and I'm sure some neglect, not by neglectful parents, more so they were working and out of the home a lot, not so much by choice to be neglectful, but I'm now realizing how important that is in the first 3 years of your life. So definitely had a lot of struggles to overcome, but I want to share this video with hopes that it will inspire some of you all to, number one, to know and understand how to get where I am today, which I feel like amazing. I feel like I'm living my best self, and I get closer to self-actualization every day. So definitely very, very, very grateful for this journey. And I want to share some tips and insight of how I got here. With that being said, I feel like I'm about 90 to 95% healed, and I feel like I've pretty much went as far as I can go on my own. Here recently, me being in the clinical social work field, I always feel kind of like, I could solve my own problems. But here recently, I actually obtained a therapy appointment through Grow Therapy, which is pretty awesome because before it was always like, I sought out mental health support when I was in a crisis, and they were like, 2 and 3 months out for an appointment. And a lot of times, I may go one time or just kind of go by the wayside, but I'm deciding to stick with it because I want to get through this last little 10%. So I'll let you know how that goes. And also, I will be trying out TMS therapy. I'm really fascinated by this and the brain in general, and I want to see if that can also help me with ADHD and some anxiety and some motivational stuff and things like that within my brain that I'm not able to heal on my own. So I'll let you know how that goes too as well in future videos. But again, back to the main point, I want to talk about, how I got where I am today, right? Now, before I get started, what I want everybody to understand is this journey was not always easy. It was the equivalent of walking through the fire or going through hell sometimes. It included lots of alone time, facing my own shadows, days where I wouldn't get out of bed, because sometimes when we're facing ourselves, what we have to face within ourselves to learn and grow is not always the easiest or most becoming to ourselves, right? So that can be kind of difficult. But if you can manage to, soldier on through, all those internal thoughts and do what you can on your behalf, I guarantee you that you can have the happiness, joy, freedom, and wisdom that I feel today. And I really feel amazing and like my best self. So first and foremost, I had to realize I had unresolved issues that I needed to deal with in order to become my best self, plain and simple, lots of trauma, right? So I first had to address that, and, I had to go through the pre-contemplation and the contemplation, and then, dedicate myself to understanding myself and healing and learning and growing. And again, this started about maybe 15 years ago. So first I had to start out with basically breaking myself down and analyzing every aspect within myself. That means really how I got started, to be honest, which is kind of lame, but I used to do those Facebook quizzes when Facebook first started up, and I thought they were fun and entertaining, and I would take them when I was bored. But then I started looking into that more, and I wanted to know more about myself. So I started out with all the different assessments, whether it was Gardner Multiple Intelligence, which, by the way, says that, it's not just IQ intelligence. There's all different kinds. There's linguistic, spatial, music, there's 7 of them. Anyway, look into that later, or if you want more information, hit me up and I'll be glad to send that for you. Then we have, do you primarily use your right brain or your left brain, right? Or is it a balance, because it is good to have a mixture of both. And not just predominantly one or the other, but typically right-brained are more creative and left-brained are more logical and analytical, right? So understanding that helps you understand yourself. Then we got the Myers-Briggs personality test, right? There's so many different dimensions to that, and it really does, man. When you learn people, when you understand it and you learn your own personality type and you learn what other people's personality types are, you really understand how to work together with those people, and you understand how they really do match the people. It's pretty neat. So then we have the Enneagram. You know, we have the, are we internally or externally controlled, you know, by our locus of control? You know, are we motivated internally by stuff within ourselves, or are we motivated by the materialistic world and money and those types of things, or power and success, those types of things, right? Then I needed to know my motivational factors. You know, what influences me? You know, what things make me really excited and passionate and purposeful? You know, and again, is those motivated by the external or the internal world? Most of mine is internal. I love to feel like, you know, kind of like camping, you know, let's try to leave people, places, and things better than the way we found it, kind of like that kind of motto, right? Then I wanted to know, you know, the big five, leadership, you know, what kind of leader am I, you know, and how do I score on that scale, you know? And then, you know, what type of leader am I? You know, am I laissez-faire? Am I transformational? Am I servant? Am I transactional? You know, and then, you know, am I a giver or taker, plain or simple? Because the world does need both. So it's important to recognize that. And I know, you know, that can be hard for me sometimes, because sometimes people just take. But, you know, the world does need both, right? So just taking all of these assessments, you know, and then when you read into yourself thoroughly, and then you read about all the different ones when you're learning and taking about all these different assessments, it really, you start connecting the dots, and you realize how different people are different from you, or like you, and you start seeing patterns, and it's really cool too, because then you get to, you know, figure out, you know, is your environment good for you, and you realize how much you influence your environment as well as how much your environment influences you, right? So it's really an awesome experience. And then hopefully we strive for balance. You know, you put yourself in situations that challenge you, you know, because you don't always want to be matched up with people that are like yourself, because if you did that, we would never learn or grow or have balance. Hence where we have greed and prejudice and oppression and all that, right? Because we have to have that balance, and we're never going to get that if we only stay in our small world and our small perspective. So that was kind of like the breaking down. I would say that was probably like, you know, included in the first 3 or 4 years of, you know, of my journey, which also, you know, then included education as well after that, and as well during that. So then let's talk about education, right? Knowledge is power. I had to understand myself, and in understanding myself, I was also able to understand others as well, right? So I went for a Regents Bachelor's. I didn't take any core classes. I basically took all electives in psychology, criminal justice, philosophy, you know, all the social sciences, you know, those types of things to understand different aspects, you know. And then I also took, you know, online courses through Coursera and edX, you know, in neurobiology and neuroscience and different things like that. You know, I wanted to understand systems, so I've always been fascinated with systems and how things are relative and affect one another. So obviously, like the human system, you know, whether it's a central nervous system, the whole body system, you know, whatever systems they are that affect us, as well as micro, meso, and macro within the social work field, and how they influence our human behavior and our interaction within ourselves as well. And then understanding religion, theology, and spirituality, you know, I wanted to know all of them. And when I read each one and I really learned about each one, I could see myself and picture such beauty and gems in each one of them. So, you know, and it was like all in this process, I'm realizing, you know, how, you know, the truth is really just a mixture of everything. But during this learning process, I was able to obtain a lot of information. I have my bachelor's regents, in all the classes I stated, and then I did a master's in human and social services, more on the community and organizational development level. So grant writing, being able to understand, how community factors play in, organizational development, assessment, that kind of thing. And then I realized I love working with individuals. So then I went back for my clinical social work degree, which I just finished up. So definitely lots and lots of education, but in all of this knowledge is so much of me and how the different aspects just affect my life. So definitely education is a super important aspect of all of that. And I feel like when you start, especially within mental health or wellness, you start, connecting the dots and realizing, the different things that you need to know or should know in order to make yourself better and hopefully, the world better as well. So during all this, breaking down process, analyzing everything, then educating myself while remaining very, very open, so that I could build myself up in the way that I wanted to be. Not based on upbringing, conditioning, what my parents thought, what a church said, or anything else. I really wanted to be and do what felt right in my heart. So I just always felt, followed that path. I wanted to make sure what I was doing aligned with what was right with me, within myself, and build myself up in that way, right? And I always had to maintain that that curiosity, right? During all of this process, I couldn't get bogged down with, daily things, life happenings that continue to influence our lives, maybe in negative ways or that are difficult to deal with or cope with. And out of all of the life experiences that I've ever dealt with, I have to say, facing your own shadows is far more difficult than any of that. So, be prepared, but it's worth its weight in absolute gold if you can do it. And I think that's why not too much bothers me anymore. I just really have a strong faith in who I am. But that is through breaking myself down, educating myself, left, right, black, white, Democrat, Republican. I wanted to know all of it and in between. And when you do that, unless you're a psychopath and you just do not have the cognitive ability to understand, the difference between right and wrong and that kind of things, you naturally, realize how much our thoughts impact us, how much we impact our world around us, and how much then our world around us impacts us, So it's really, a balance of give and take in the process. All right, now we're going to get to the next big part, engagement, right? So, I assess myself thoroughly, which, by the way, this is called participant research or participational or something like that research, where, I actually treat myself like my own research project. But anyway, engagement on my behalf was the biggest, you can't give up, basically, right? And through engagement, I'm going to tell you some of the processes and tools that I used in my engagement to help me, to learn and grow and overcome things. First is self-awareness. You have to be able to analyze yourself and be realistic. Take an outside view, looking down in, like Eckhart Tolle talks about, being the witness of your thoughts, those types of things, and really being real with yourself. There's something called the Johari window. For those of you who are not familiar with it, it basically says that we have parts of us that we know that are not known to others. We have parts of us that we know about ourselves that are known to others. We have parts about ourselves that are not known to us but are known to others. And then we have parts of ourselves that are not known to ourselves and not known to others, the unconscious, right? And so we need that constant feedback. That's why having good teammates, good bosses, and good leadership around you is very, very important, because you want to make sure that the feedback that you're getting back is coming from somebody who genuinely cares about you and your success. And our environments are so very important. Thank God I'm always blessed with the best bosses every time, whether, it's me, middle, Arundel Lodge, a crisis response, the hospital, the VA, I've always had the best bosses, which play a crucial role. But anyway, that self-awareness, and you can gain that through that feedback from, again, your team and those that that genuinely love and care about you and want to see succeed. Then journaling, right? I probably have 50 notebooks day by day, how I'm thinking. I'm sure some of it I would read and I would probably be like, oh my goodness, and other times ashamed, and other times probably really proud of myself, but they're real thoughts. Maybe one day I'll turn it into a book so you all can experience that as well. Then exposure and desensitization, that's so important. You can't run from things that disturb you and that are difficult, right? So anything that made me want to cringe or run, I want to face, right? Definitely. Like public speaking was a big thing. I know I want to help people and I want to advocate for those who need it and for justice and things like that, and so I took a job giving public speeches to people that I greatly respect and admire, as a job, and it's frightening and it's been years and I still get nervous and shake and get adrenaline and but slowly but surely I'm desensitizing myself to that kind of things, right? Then we have meditation and hypnotherapy, kind of one and the same. You can use another person, or you can meditate or self-hypnotize, which is awesome in bringing, especially those with trauma, especially if you have trauma from childhood or you were neglected in the first 1 through 3 years of your life, which are the most crucial in brain development. If you were neglected in those years, you most likely have, bypassed the emotional brain and you think more logically. I know that's me, right? And so that's something I'm definitely having to work through meditation and that kind of thing and mindfulness. Being able to engage in that, you could seek a professional, or, you can reach out to me. We can talk through some tips and tools, and I can share some of the things that have helped me. I'm always, I don't need money or anything like that. Anybody who wants knowledge or anything like that, or just somebody to talk to, I'm always there. So feel free to reach out. My email's in my somewhere on my profile here. Anyway, next, exercise, right? Exercise is so important, not just running and cardio. They're really realizing, especially as far as brain health and brain wellness, lifting weights is actually very, very good for it as well. If you can do both, great, right? But exercise, I feel like, is definitely one of the best and most for anything for my mental health, as far as on a day-to-day basis and flooding me with those good feel-good hormones, right? Next, again, be willing to face, shadows, right? Not easy. I at least have a realization and I'm like, at least once a week, and I'm like, oh goodness. But at least, then you can acknowledge them, figure it out, and just, it's hard to get ahead of things, especially when you're caught in thought patterns or behavioral patterns, but you can get ahead, and the first step is awareness. So don't be afraid to be like, oh, I could do better, or I should have did this, or I should have did that. Next is medicine, right? Sometimes you need medicine, plain and simple. If you're one of them people, make sure you seek out, I try to avoid them, only because, pharma, anyway, only because most of the people that I know, like my grandma that lived in her late 90s and things like that, took very little pharma. Next is seclusion. It takes seclusion, y'all. If you're always focused on everybody else's life, whoever is doing, being out with people, if you can't spend a weekend with yourself with nobody around, and that a weekend is nothing. I mean, I've grown to love my alone time. I really do, and I enjoy engaging with people as well. But my alone time is where I get my healing and I get to re-energize. But let's face it, if you are always out and always stimulated and other people are always around you, you're not focusing on number one, which is you. And that's why another thing, is when you're in your healing process and you're trying to learn and do better and everything, and you're trying to maybe even exit around environments or people that aren't good for you, or cut off friends. I know I have had to do that. Always know that, that's okay. If that's what you have to do to keep yourself healthy, that's fine. and recognize, you know, sometimes people will take heart to that, and they may, you know, try to, you know, smear your name or make you look bad and those types of things. But also know, no matter what, you win, because if others are focused on you, they're not focused on their own healing and their own success and working towards self-actualization, which is my primary goal, and to help others in the process, then you know, you're learning and growing because you're focusing on yourself. Meanwhile, they're focused on you and they're not learning and growing. So it's really just kind of a sad situation. The only thing you can do is pray for them and hope that they'll realize their faults and, you know, go inward and not be afraid to be alone or lonely or by themselves, because really it's the best thing that can ever happen for you. And then my last tool that I'd like to mention is recognizing your thought patterns. You know, where does your focus go, right? Now focus is based on neuron pathways. You know, we have a perception about our environment and you know, the events in our lives. We all create a perception of that. And that perception is based on, a lot of times, prior programming due to neuron pathways and neuroprogramming based on prior experiences. So if your prior experiences were not all that great and is not something that you really want to remember and think about and experience again, then try to have a new thought, right? And it's difficult. It's like swimming upstream, you know, and basically you are, because your neurons have been, you know, you've pruned your brain for your neurons to, you know, go towards prior perceptions. And so your prior experiences are creating your reality right now, right? And this is like something that I think is such an amazing thing, because I really feel like so powerful, like my destiny is really in my hands, because I'm swimming upstream and I'm winning. But it's definitely not an easy battle, but you have to recognize that what you experience and what you take out of life is your perception, and your perception is your reality, and the only one that can change that is you. So, you know, I think that was through the reticular activating system video. If you watch one of my prior videos, I go over that pretty well. Tony Robbins has an awesome video on that. So, you know, watch that too as well. Super helpful, but it really just says that attention and energy and motivation and movement goes where our attention is. So, you know, we got to watch our thoughts. And it's really hard to get ahead of your thoughts, because our thoughts are created from our environment, right? Our environment produces our emotional reaction within ourselves, you know. Sometimes if you have a lot of trauma, it might not be reality, right? And we might be triggered, and, you know, such as fireworks, you know, things like that. You know, it's it'll trigger those emotions, and being able to get ahead of that is difficult, you know, just with anything, but it is possible, you know. And again, you know, it's try some of the tips and tools that I mentioned in this video, and if you ever need anybody to talk to or any questions, feel free to reach out. I would be glad to help. And remember, pick your environment, your team, and your soul tribe. You know, pick them, make them who you want to be like, and the experience that you want to experience, while also knowing yourself so deeply will also help you know how your synchronicities and how your skills, talents, gifts, and also, you know, those things you lack maybe will fit together with the team, so that together you can complement one another and work together to hopefully create a healthier lifestyle for yourself, one that's filled with joy and happiness, but also that which then can spread that joy and happiness to others. So stay blessed, everybody. I hope this video helps.